Okay, guys, the recorder's on, so we'll carry on our conversation. We've just had a little preliminary chat, but we decided to turn it on so that everyone can hear what we're saying. So
Yeah,
hello
because
from
we chatted.
hello from Callista, and hello to Will and Bill and Phil.
Yeah. Hello, Callista. Hello, guys.
Hello,
How are
back
you
at
doing?
you.
Yeah, I was just going to say that actually we chat as much offline as we do online when we're having the actual chat that we record. So sometimes we use the preceding chat to determine what we're going to talk about. So that being the case, what are we going to talk about, guys? Do you guys have any idea? Cliff, do you have any idea?
I've got a list.
Okay.
There seems to be varying degrees of crazy going on out there at the moment. But I think the craziest thing that I've seen all week is this, and it's a message from the Pope. And the Pope says that you need to be vaccinated against COVID-19 or you won't go into heaven.
Wow.
Really? Now that is weird.
That's effed up.
Heaven's quarantined.
Isn't it
Since
amazing?
when? That's incredible. Since when is not having a vaccination the equivalent in the Catholic faith of committing a mortal sin? Because
there you
only when you
go.
commit a mortal sin are you denied heaven and you're guaranteed hell. And mortal sin is such things as rape and pillage and murder and missing church on Sunday.
Vaccine
Yeah,
refusal,
yeah.
now a mortal sin.
And now it's a mortal sin. You're not going to go to heaven. Well, that just shows you how he's lost it. He's lost it completely. You know, all these discussions with China recent times and cooperating with the CCP and all that. And now he's saying, if you don't get a vaccination, you don't go to heaven. He's not quite saying you go to hell.
Well, I don't want to go to heaven if the Pope's going to be there anyway. So, you know, it doesn't worry me one way or another. But
Right.
also I heard or saw in passing today that they're saying that Barack Obama and Joe Biden are going to go on television to have their vaccinations to encourage people to get vaccinated. So there seems to be a big push for the vaccination. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and just because they get an injection doesn't mean it's the vaccination they're being injected with. You know, they're not that stupid.
No, that's right.
Exactly. If anything, they're getting injected with an antidote, but not for us sheeple. No, we have to get microchipped and have aborted fetal cells put into us and mercury, all the thimerosal your body can handle. Sure, sign me up.
Oh, yeah, actually that reminds me of something.
Yes.
I'll just say this while I'm getting up a screen here because I want to quote, you know, properly from the screen. But just to remind everybody who's listening that we're also on BitChute now and Rumble because I've started a couple of accounts, one with BitChute and one with Rumble, just in case we get kicked off YouTube. So the links to those two channels are in the description box below the video. So, and the correct links are in there now. I did get a bit mixed up with the Rumble link, but I've got it fixed now. Yes, what I found today was very, very interesting. It was someone who had found an article from the Nuremberg Code. And it's Article 6, Section 3, and it says leaders should be aware that mandating masks on the citizens of a nation and preventing their access to food, transport, healthcare, or education if they don't comply is a war crime. Masks or any other medical intervention must remain voluntary.
Right.
So that says that you can't do it. And it says forced, coerced, and mandated masks are in violation of these principles.
Wow.
And Article 6, Section 1 says any preventative, diagnostic, or therapeutic medical intervention is only to be carried out with the prior, free, and informed consent of the person concerned, based on adequate information. The consent should, where appropriate, be expressed and may be withdrawn at any time and for any reason.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sounds good
this
to me.
thing about mandatory masks and mandatory vaccinations is actually contravening the Nuremberg Code.
Right, and thus is a war crime.
Is a war
And
crime.
doesn't
Therefore, that's why they have to
say
make
it all?
Gitmo so big.
Right.
So,
Wow.
so
Part
did
of
that
it,
article, Callista, talk about what jurisdiction the Nuremberg Code had as its authority? In other words, who comes under that jurisdiction? So that's that article in section, Article 6 would have some effect.
I don't know. I have not. I only found it this morning on Parler, and I don't even really know what the Nuremberg Code was all about or what it was. You know, obviously it was something that was put into place after the Second World War. I presume. I don't know.
Yeah, it has to do
and to do with the Nuremberg trials, but I don't
trials,
know.
exactly.
I have not been in there and had a good look about that.
No, I think they came up with these articles that would define categorically what was a war crime, what isn't, how, actions done by the Nazis. For example, they were the ones that started using aluminum or aluminum in North America, particulates in the water, as well as fluoride. Fluoride was a big one too, okay? In fact, it was more fluoride, I think, that was the real issue. But they knew about aluminum and the effects, and they certainly knew about fluoride and how it would dumb down the people and all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting, all these cities that put fluoride in your water.
Yeah, yeah. So that I found that really interesting. That's probably something we could, if people are interested, they could have a look up the Nuremberg Code and have a good look at it, because people are just, it's like all these people have come into power and are ignoring the codes and the constitutions that they're supposed to be aware of. And if people aren't aware of these things, well, then that's when they have the wool pulled over their eyes. What do you reckon, Bill?
I don't think the Nuremberg Code has any legal effect at this time. And certainly actions like that are treason under U.S. law. So we don't really need the Nuremberg Code.
But still,
exactly.
have it available and see how that was defined, that if you did this kind of action against people, your people, other people you might have conquered, this is a crime against humanity. And that's really what it's about, what they're proposing. And remember, Cosmic Awareness did say recently to a question that about vaccination and everything, that if someone's trying to force it on you, there's something dubious. But if you have the free will to take it, well, then that's a different matter. Okay, so whatever national vaccination they'll come up with for any nation, because they all seem to have a different set of vaccinations and companies they want to go with, is actually maybe not a bad thing. If they say you don't have to take it, it's not mandatory. If they're telling you, as they are here in Canada, that it will be mandatory, well, then you know that the agenda that they're working for is Agenda 21 and Agenda 30.
That's right.
Yeah,
So
well,
that's my thought
obviously
on
that it's very, very clear that you can't say to someone, oh, well, if you haven't got a vaccination, you can't buy food, or go on transport
yeah.
or whatever.
That's
Now,
amazing.
this is also very interesting because I'm thinking, I know in Australia, Qantas, the airline, is saying that
Mhm.
no one can go on their airline unless they've been vaccinated. Now,
Mhm.
according to this Nuremberg Code, that's illegal. In fact, it's an act of war crime.
Mhm. Aren't they,
So,
Qantas, the first airline in the world to mandate that you have to have a vaccination when they're available in order to fly on one of their flights?
I don't know. I really don't know.
That's what I heard. They're the first airline in the world that has come up with this ruling or this directive, I guess.
Mm.
But it's all part of what.
I guess I won't be flying to Australia anytime soon.
Oh, you can use other airlines. I mean, I wouldn't use Qantas if you paid me. Quite honestly, I don't like it. I'd rather go Singapore Airlines or Cathay Pacific. Yeah, Cathay Pacific, which Will went, which is a really nice airline. And you've got Virgin. I don't think Virgin is going to impose that sort of thing. But I don't know.
What's that noise?
Is that you, Phil? Yep, it's
Bill,
Phil.
what are you doing? Bill, you're killing me. My ears are.
I am.
Whatever noise you're making.
My thumb dragged across my very sensitive microphone. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Right. Oh.
But yeah, I think this mask mandate, one company at a time, is intended to put a slow stranglehold on people being able to participate in life, in commerce, in getting educated, and getting food, and going to work. That you have to sign off on mask stuff before you can conveniently engage in life again. And I think that may come to backfire on them. At least in this country, you can really start to feel people now wanting to do something more drastic to tell their elected officials, no, this is unacceptable. And it's going to be very curious what the next few, just the next couple of weeks, let alone the next couple of months, is going to, because you can really feel people getting on the edge. They've been through enough this year already.
Yeah, well, I was just telling the guys before you came on, Phil, that I've been listening this morning to the rally that Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell had in Georgia, and it absolutely moved me to tears. It was just so emotional. The courage and the intention and the they're just so determined that they're going to make sure that the law is fully observed and the right thing is done by the people. And I just found that really, really inspiring today. It was so amazing. And Lynn Wood gets up there and boy, he was on fire.
I saw that. He was like a southern preacher.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sydney came on and everyone just applauded her and she got such a fantastic reception. She is really an amazing woman. And between the two of them, they are, they're representing the American people at a high level. And they're not afraid. They're not afraid. And this is what has really impressed me about these hearings that are going on about the election fraud. You've got just normal, regular people getting up there, and a lot of them are women, and they're telling it like it was and how they saw it and what they think. And I've seen some absolutely incredible people talking about, what's been going on, and they're getting persecuted for it. And this is this is what it's all about. This is a war. Exactly, it's a war. It's a revolutionary war. It's 1776 all over again.
That's what he said today.
Yes, I listened to that too.
And a lot of people do think it is a second American revolution. In fact, I know a lot of people in the military have been through some of the Patriot video channels that the White Hats can take it only so far, but they really thought the people would have been fed up a lot sooner and demanded or taken action to take back their states or their country some months ago. And when you see someone with that passion that Lynn Wood had today, and the response he got from the audience. Remember, this was down in Georgia, where it's an important, swing state that they're really looking into the voter fraud. It really tells you that there is a change coming among people, which I think is starting to bleed over into some head scratching Democratic type voters that are beginning to wonder, gee, maybe there is crazy fraud. These stories just can't all be untrue. And especially when that video went up live today, if you saw it on YouTube, do you know that they tried, hackers tried to take it down twice when it really started getting good this morning? Well, for us, it was morning time. For you, Callista, it was probably evening. But they tried to take it down twice, and the White Hats got it up back online within a couple of seconds each time.
Yeah, you're talking about the Georgia video.
The rally today that had
the
Sidney
rally.
Powell.
Yep.
Yeah.
I noticed that the quality that I saw anyway, the quality was quite patchy. It was like there was definitely an attack going on that was trying to interrupt the signal. And at one point, it stopped completely, and there was a message written up there that it'll be resumed very shortly, and they got it back online again. But I thought at the time that it probably was being attacked.
They traced it to Beijing.
Yeah, of course.
Did they?
This is where all these
wow.
DDoS attacks are coming from.
They were
Mhm.
But we'll talk.
traced. Yeah,
I'll
Beijing.
talk about that a bit later too. I want to talk about DDoS attacks later. But yeah,
Okay.
go on.
Well, I
Yeah.
want to talk about some of the reaction to what Lynn Wood said and also Sidney Powell, not from the Democrats, but from the Republican Party itself. They were outraged. There's all kinds of people clamoring about how Lynn Wood is doing such a disservice because the two, well, man and woman actually running for the Senate position there in Georgia, they need to be supported. And doesn't he recognize and understand that it's desperate? It'll give him the majority Senate, or if they lose it, then that's it. They're done in. And they just didn't get what Lynn Wood was all about. What he was about, what he and Sidney are about, is they're reminding the people, you are the power, not these senators, these ones running for Senate who haven't done a damn thing in Georgia to say this is not good enough. They haven't shown up anywhere to show that they're in opposition to their governor. I think Kemp is his name, and Ratzenberger, the Secretary of State or whoever. They're not protesting. And I thought, this is what it's about. The biggest thing, the biggest disappointment over the last weeks is the lack of backbone in the Republican Party, and how many of them are telling Donald Trump, well, go quietly into that dark night because you lost and you can't prove it. And it's like, wait a minute, you're a Republican, aren't you? Why aren't you standing up like Lynn Wood and just giving it? So I think that this was a message to the people. You have the power. And it's getting these people scared shitless who, in the Republican Party, who are afraid now that maybe the people will stand up and insist something's done, or else their jobs are on the line and they're out of there at the very least. Any thoughts on that?
Well, like Sidney Powell said the other day, there's various departments and organisations, and it's not just the three-letter ones that needs to be hosed out with Clorox.
Yeah. and sandpaper, a lot of it.
Fire
Rub
hose
them
and
down.
Clorox.
Yeah. What about you guys? Yeah.
Right in line with what you were saying there, I had an experience today. Yesterday, I got a telephone recorded message from Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas. He said that today at 6:30 p.m. there would be a teleconference with questions and answers, and that they would call my number at that time, which they did today. So I stayed with it for about 10 minutes. And the point at which I hung up the phone was the point where Greg Abbott indicated that he accepted the fact that Joe Biden was elected president.
Right.
There's your politician first, Republican second, patriot
right,
far third or last. Yeah.
Well, that's a shame because I thought the Texas governor was. Sorry, I was just saying I thought that I was just saying that I thought the Texas governor was a pretty good guy and a supporter of Trump and everything. But it shows you how, in the end, these people think only really of themselves and getting themselves reelected, and they can't stand up for really the principle of it all. What it's really about is the freeing of America and Americans so they can have the kind of government that they deserve, not the kind they've had, you know. And if they roll over, maybe you could make an argument, well, maybe Biden is the government they deserve. I personally disagree with that on a level, but if they don't stand up, and I think that's what Lynn Wood and Sidney Powell and a few others are really coming forward with. Like, what's the guy in Pennsylvania? Let's see, Mastroianni, I think that's his name. He's also one of these firebrands, you know.
He's ex-military.
A colonel in the intelligence service or something, wasn't he?
I think he was a Marine colonel, but he was a colonel. And I think he probably has more of a personal connection with the oath of upholding the Constitution against enemies, foreign and domestic, than a career politician. But, you know, since 2018, it might be since 2016. I can't remember now. Maybe Bill remembers. You know, Trump, you never hear about this. Trump has been draining the swamp of Republican legislators as well. And you don't hear about the 56.
Ryan, for example.
There's been like 57 Republican senators or congressmen that chose to step down, not run for re-election, or just leave office because they all were approached. And we've got this on you. You can go home now, and we won't press charges. Just leave and don't come back. And 56, 57 took that, and they left. All Republican. You never hear that. Now, they also went to dirty Democrats. And from what I was told, every single one of them said, F you. We're not going anywhere. Take me to court.
Right.
And this only involves those swamp creatures that had, you know, lesser corruption, you know, doing things on the take, bribes, that sort of thing. There were no deals for those that were involved in trafficking children or pedophiles or other crimes like that. This is, were offered a choice, and the Republicans apparently, or at least most of them, took that offer. The Democrats were so certain they were going to win because of the various shenanigans they knew they had up their sleeves that they turned it down. And the reason I'm saying that is that for a long time, some of us have been told that there's going to come a point when so many arrests come down and vacancies happen in the various levels of government that they're going to have a whole bunch of special elections to replace vacancies that have been opened up due to arrests and mass step downs. And I think we're probably coming up on that really soon, especially if anything about Nassara as an act is true, I think there's something about within 120 days of its announcement, they have to have special elections. So I'm wondering whether a lot of the characteristics of this supposed Nasara Gassara legislation are going to be announced sometime in the near future, which would require special elections in the next 120 days. It's a speculation, but it seems to be lining up.
Yeah, well, I don't think that'll happen if Biden comes in and his group have power, Nasara. But I wanted to also mention, you said about the Republican resignations and people announcing they're not going to run again at the next election. And of course, one of the biggest names is Paul Ryan. And guess who announced the other day that he's going to run for Senate again, or whatever, Congress.
Paul Ryan?
I think he was in Congress. Yeah, I heard it yesterday that he's considering running again, re-entering, coming back. Well, of course he is, because he thinks they've dealt with Trump, and so he can go right back into the pig pen, you know?
That's how arrogant they are. They can't even see that they're doomed. That's just my feeling.
Well,
but isn't it? Yeah, didn't you guys hear a rumor that Paul Ryan and Mike Pence had plotted something together?
No, I can't say
No?
I've ever heard. I've heard some things about Mike Pence that make you wonder, but I've never heard him and Paul Ryan planning anything.
Well, it was on the chance for a while.
No, didn't hear. Did you?
Supposedly.
No, I don't think I heard anything about that. No.
This was a couple of years ago, but supposedly, and this was on the chance, and I remember it briefly, but it's been a while, that Paul Ryan and Pence were allegedly caught or taped planning basically the assassination of President Trump.
Well, if that was so, I would have thought that they would have gotten rid of Pence a long time ago.
Well,
so we can't believe everything you hear. It's obvious that there are lies and disinformation and all kinds of things that are put out there to cause concern and doubt or speculation or whatever. But that was not something I've ever heard before. How about you, Bill?
No, I didn't hear about that particular thing. I do have some questions about Mike Pence, but he may have been converted, fully converted.
Or they went up to Mike Pence like they went to the royal prince in Saudi there, or Israel and the Pope in Rome, and said, here's what we got on you, and either you play our game or you don't. And looks like they're trying to break away now, the Pope especially, now that heaven's out of bounds for people who don't take vaccinations. That's so funny.
That's amazing to me that we've talked before about the inversion politics, or how the deep state, the dark side, likes to invert symbols, norms, and turn everything backwards, inside out, upside down. Isn't it funny that you have this head of a religious order who says, resist the mark of the beast? It's all throughout the Bible. And then he's essentially telling you, if you don't take the mark of the beast, you're not going to heaven. I mean, that's completely upside down now. And unfortunately, there's like 1 billion Catholics in the world that are trained to feel that he is infallible, and will listen to what he has to say.
Yeah, there's a lot of Catholics who aren't strict anymore.
He's being completely controlled by China.
Also remember, in the Catholic faith, there are these predictions that the papacy is going to end with the Black Pope. And many people thought, oh my God, that means the last Pope that will be of service to the faith will be a black man. Well, I would remind you all that the Jesuit order is also known as the Black Order, and the head of the Black Order was Francis, in Argentina. He was the head of the Jesuits. So yeah, Phil, he's the last man standing, or whatever he's doing, because he is the Black Pope. You know.
Right,
So
the Secretary General of the
interesting.
Jesuit order. Now, do you think that's one of the prophecies of the Fatima? The Fatima, three prophecies of...
Some hold it is. Yeah, the third prophecy was never totally revealed. So there is some talk it was that, you know, that it would be a Black Pope. But I can't say 100% on that one. So, let's move on. Let's move on to some other stuff here. It's been an eventful week. We've been having these hearings, the first in Pennsylvania, Gettysburg there, and then down in Arizona, wasn't it? The second set, and now they're in Michigan. And some very powerful people, ordinary patriots, are standing up. And why I want to talk a bit more about this is because I wanted to point out that every one of them, under oath, that they could be sent to prison for perjury, have spoken out, even though they know that they could go to prison if it's deemed what they said is in fact a lie. And you've got hundreds of people in all those swing states who are coming forward. Any thoughts about that further to what we've already talked about, but I didn't feel we were quite finished with that.
Yeah, I would say that it takes a whole lot more courage to come forward knowing the potential flack you're going to receive from the cabal and the Democrats than it would to come forward and make a declaration under penalty of perjury, because if they're telling the truth, they're not worried about perjury. But being attacked by the bad guys is a definite possibility, and has happened already to some. That's where the courage lies.
Wasn't there some cases of sheriffs showing up at people's houses after they testify? And I don't know what happened, but any of you guys know anything about that?
I don't.
No, I don't. I saw a headline today. I didn't read the article, but the headline was that one of the people that came forward to testify was beaten and in the hospital.
Okay, well, that's pretty serious. Callista, did you hear of any retaliations against witnesses?
There was one particular woman that really impressed me, and she was very. She had been employed by the Dominion people to go up on the stage and observe things and all that sort of stuff. And she knew what she was talking about. And she said she's had to move house. She's had her children threatened. She's had she's been told she'll never get a job anywhere, and it just goes on and on. And so yeah, it is a real thing. And talking about this Dominion software now, there's a guy called Ron who's also known as Code Monkey, and Phil, you'd know Ron because he actually set up the 8chan boards.
Yeah.
And then he was and then set up 8Coon when the 8chan board got attacked. And he's very, very competent at coding and all that sort of thing. That's why he's called Code Monkey. Now, he announced a few weeks ago that he was leaving 8Coon, and he didn't actually say where he was going or what he was doing, but it seems pretty obvious from his Twitter account and from various messages that are put on 8Coon that Ron is now working for the White Hats and helping them to work out what has been going on with this Dominion machinery with the various software in there. So he actually was able to get hold of some footage that this person had taken where the guy from Dominion was actually taking information from one computer, putting it on a thumb drive and inserting it into another computer, and
I saw that.
therefore tampering with everything. And that video is now, it's gone viral. And so that's really interesting. And also, this all points to the fact that this election really is not just an election, it's a sting operation that the white hats are doing against the deep state, against China, against, you know, all these ones that don't want you to have a free world anymore. And it's so critical to them that Dominion Systems actually removed a server in Georgia. They removed it.
Mm-hmm.
And did you know that Dominion Systems was paid $450 million by a communist Chinese party-backed Swiss bank just before the election?
Yeah.
No, I hadn't heard about that one.
Yeah, it was in populist press, and when the populist press reported it, they immediately got a DDoS attack on their site. And for those who don't know what DDoS is, it's called a distributed denial of service attack, DDoS. And a distributed denial of service attack is a malicious attempt to disrupt the normal traffic of a targeted server, service, or network by overwhelming the target or its surrounding infrastructure with a flood of internet traffic. And you can actually go online and find a real-time DDoS map that shows you where all these attacks are coming from and going to. It's quite fascinating. It's huge. So that I thought that was really interesting, that all that sort of information's coming out. And I'm just getting bits and pieces of that information off the boards and off Parler and from the alternative news.
I'd say that paying $440 million by a country is pretty cheap. That's nothing to control the outcome of an election.
Well, it's sort of like a little supermarket over there in China, I think, where they sell these little packages, because they sold one to Venezuela, to Chavez, so that Chavez would get back in, and they've been you know selling them to various countries throughout the world who want to, you know, make sure their election goes a certain way. And it's interesting.
Well, what about
interesting to see? If I can just finish. Excuse me. It's interesting to see that the battleground states in America are the very ones that employed the Dominion machines.
But what about the claims that came out that these people in Venezuela had created the Dominion software or whatever so that Chavez and Maderas could get back in power? Obviously, China has something to do with that as well. Maybe they had some software for them or something. I don't know. But the point is, China's right in there. China's right in there.
Yeah, and it goes to that. Go ahead.
Yes.
I just wanted to say.
Yeah, go for it. I'm letting you have the floor.
It's okay. This is going to talk. I just wanted to say that. Well, go ahead, Will. I forgot what I was going to say now. After all that, go ahead.
Well, we were talking about Dominion removing a server. That leads me to think that what was very interesting also in Georgia was the judge, who first of all said to Sidney Powell and oh God, the other guy, Linwood, thank you, that they had the right to get the servers and find out what's on it, and then he revoked that and changed his mind, and then for a third time he gave it back to them. Did you guys hear about that? It was pretty big news, so I'm sure you all heard about it.
Yeah, I did.
Hmm. Bill,
And
did
Lynn
you
Wood
hear about
seemed
it?
to be pretty pleased about that.
Well, there's a story behind it, but anyway, Bill, did you hear about it?
No, I missed that one.
No, okay. And Callista, I think you must have heard about it, eh?
Mm-hmm.
But the point around it, what I wanted to say is I heard on one of the, I think As We Know, that funny Christian kind of thing, which has actually some good information on it. But anyway, there was an explanation I heard somewhere that actually the reason he changed his mind about that and revoked the right to see it was because they hadn't quite filled it out. So they didn't actually, I'm talking Wood and Powell here, hadn't actually named names. And what the judge was actually doing is saying, I want you to do this, so I'm going to revoke it basically so you can get it put in again with the right names and the people who were responsible. And they did that, and he gave it right back to him, the right to seize this. But of course, these machines are disappearing, or they're not letting them have it anyway, despite the court order. Just shows they still think they can do everything with impunity. So I thought
And the
that was
media
very
also
interesting.
and the media also misrepresents what's going on too. You know, they get hold of it and say, oh well, Trump lost all these cases and blah blah blah, and really that wasn't the case, and there was a reason for everything happening the way it did. But the same thing happened just recently where the media was saying that Barr was saying various things and saying that there was absolutely no proof that there was election fraud and all that sort of thing. And it's caused quite a bit of confusion among the alternative media as well, because I noticed that the Gateway Pundit was quite incensed about what Barr had said, and it seems that he'd just been misquoted or something. Do you guys know anything about that?
I heard that was
I heard
taken
it
out of context, but I don't know the details on it.
How about you, Phil?
Yeah, that it was taken out of context, and he was quoted answering a specific question, and he answered it specific to the type of question that was asked. And just because he said he saw no evidence of election fraud, he may have been answering it in a very specific context that is outside of his jurisdiction, which means he truthfully answered and said he saw no evidence of it. But that doesn't mean he's not aware of evidence that other agencies might be pursuing that are approaching this from a different angle, perhaps a military tribunal angle, for example. But in either case, what I've been told is that Barr is in fact a white hat, and a lot of people in the Patriot community are starting to question because they're wondering why have he and Durham waited so long to actually do something when there's such massive evidence. And the information, as I understand it at the present, is that they're being held back. They're being held back till the right time so that everybody can get drawn up in one big net, as many people as possible. And when it does, going to storm surge, or like Sidney Powell said, a fire hose of activity. And it's just it's supposed to happen here before Christmas. I think it has to anyway. They do have, yeah.
I can see that, but we have to also remember that he and Durham are supposed to both belong to the SES, which is the Senior Executive Service. So unless Trump flipped them a long time ago, and I'm inclined towards believing that, and kind of said, okay, you want to live the rest of your life out and all that, just work with me. I don't know. You see, there's such speculation because we're still out in the dark with this one, and then there are the quotes, and yes, maybe it was spin doctored and all that, and everything isn't quite what it seems, but it is interesting, as some have pointed out, that the Department of Justice and the FBI both have not yet really dived into it. And it's like, why isn't it? If it's so blatant and obvious, why aren't they investigating? But maybe they are under a screen of secrecy. I don't know. This is
Well, I
where we
did
have
see.
to still maintain that. Sorry, Callista. We still have to maintain that sacred neutrality and just say, well, we don't know everything. Let's just see what comes of it all.
Yeah.
There you go, Callista. What were you going to say?
I was
Sorry.
just going to remark that that apparently there's been huge numbers of flights to Gitmo over the last week, and so I read from America, and so I think that there's a lot going on in the background that we're not really aware of. And another rumor that came up during the week that was that Gina Haspel, who is the director of the CIA, died of natural causes. Now, I don't know.
A bullet is a natural cause?
I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened.
I heard that she was in Frankfurt when the Marines went into military, and there was a shootout. I heard that 5 soldiers were killed, and that for some reason she was there, and she got wounded. And I've heard one report is she was killed, one is that she's in the hospital. Yeah, who knows? I don't.
I heard that too.
You guys heard anything about that?
Yeah.
I heard that same message that that Will just related. But in regard to Durham, I will remind you of the last Q post, which was a single word that was Durham.
Yeah, that's interesting, Bill, because it's not just. I think it's not just referring to Durham, the prosecutor, but did you know that Sidney Powell comes from a place called Durham?
No, I didn't know that.
Well, that's interesting, but a one-word thing like that, I think, would be the prosecutor Durham.
Could be, yeah. But they like to use subterfuge and double meanings and hidden meanings and all kinds of things. So it could be both, really, Durham. Or maybe he's talking about the Durham boat that was used to cross the Potomac River, whatever. Anyway, I wander a bit.
Well, I agree with Bill that if you only had one word from Q, who hasn't been posting a lot lately, and that word was Durham, the average Anon who goes to the board would presume it is in reference to Durham, which everybody is waiting for him to start releasing the pain. And it's interesting, he's gone dark since then. And I think it's a hint.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that Durham is not going to release a report, is he? It's just going to be indictments, I think. Wasn't that what was going to happen?
Well, this is it. That's what I've always understood. He's not doing a report. He's going for the indictments, and so that he has all what that he needs to actually prosecute these people.
Where have all the sealed indictments come from? Certainly some from Durham.
Yeah, and Sessions was also.
Yeah.
Session was also very involved in getting a lot of those indictments put together way back when,
But I can see reason for the delays. Right now, the nation's on edge. They're cranky. They're tired. They've been through a lot. They can't go outside without a mask. They can't earn money. No stimulus checks are coming in. They're afraid. And we just had an election where a large part of the population thinks they won fair and square, and they think the other others are sore losers who they don't understand why they're screaming crazy conspiracy theories. It might be wise that you don't go forward on those prosecutions of Durham and Barr until the election has been safely announced by going through the rule of law and any court cases, Supreme Court, that need to happen. And once that is named and the election is officially called, and if the public is shown the amount of fraud that has come through China, has come through the Bidens, has come through the Democratic Party, then they might be more understanding when all of these arrests go down of primarily Democrat enemies of President Trump. Because if he did it now, it would look like he's a sore loser. He's lashing out at everybody in his last few weeks in office, and it would be bad optics. I think the public would be much of a rapid mass arrest by Durham and Barr if by then even Democrat voters saw the extent to which the election was rigged and the cheating that went on. That will rub everybody the wrong way, and I think they'd get more public sentiment for making arrests once the public has been educated. So I think they're holding off for that.
Quite well could be, yes. You're right there. But at the same time, they've been using that same excuse into, well, before they actually had the elections, heading into the elections, they were using the same excuse. Can't have bad optics. We can't release this information because then it'll be all politicized and then it'll go against Trump because it'll look like he's pulled these guys in just to work on a political level to his benefit. So I've been hearing that same story for months. It's like, when is the right time? Because what happens when if it goes this way, and I know it won't, but I'm just playing devil's advocate here. What if Biden and his crew get elected or get sworn in? Because technically some people believe they were elected. He is the president-elect. Well, you know, all of Durham's work would be squashed. Every one of those indictments that he's ready to bring out would be trashed. So it seems to me that the only way that it can actually ever come out is when Donald Trump regains the presidency and goes for another 4 years. So it's like, it seems a bit of hit and miss to me on that.
And
I think that, I'm sorry.
The first deadline we're looking at, the first potential deadline we're looking at for that is December 14th.
12 days.
And my understanding is that there is no president-elect until the Electoral College has announced the results of the elections.
Something of that nature, yeah. And now they're wondering if they're going to go that way. Yeah. If they flip a couple of those states.
Going back to what you were saying.
Flip them.
Going back to what you were saying about, everything's, taking its time and this and that and optics and we can't do this and we can't do that. I think that a lot of things have happened in a way that the White Hats thought they would happen a different way. And I think that along the way, President Trump has received some really bad advice from some people. Whether that's been deliberate or accidental, I don't know. But it seems like there's a lot of dithering going on. You can't dither when you're in the middle of a war.
Well, my vote on that is that this plan has been set for a very long time. And I think the plan is on course, and we're about to see it just explode here soon.
I would tend to agree with you there, Bill. Yeah, it's like we still have to see this through. And we know these next 2 weeks, well, since a few days ago, since the beginning of the year, or this month, I mean, we are in a very, very critical time frame. That's not even saying it right. it is my understanding, and I wanted to bring this in anyway. So let's go to the December 21st. Are they prophecies? Are they projections? A lot of people in the metaphysical community, the light workers, are talking about December 21st, and there's going to be this grand alignment of all these different planets and blah, blah, blah. And the time coming up to that is critical. We are in those times right now. Any thoughts, you guys, on that?
I remember 2012 being the day that everything would happen, supposedly.
Well, that's actually an important point you just brought up. Remember that, as we do, and how many were so disappointed. Nothing happened, and it was a big farce and everything. And yet I know that Cosmic Awareness and a few others were saying actually something major did happen. A crack opened in the door into the influence of the divine source or whatever started to seep through. And it's like a closed door that's now mostly open, because here's the thing I wanted to mention about the 21st, nobody has said anything about. It's the 8th anniversary since 2012. And that, to me, is very significant, with all the other things that we're told about the alignment of planets and all of that. I think the fact that we are going to see the 8th anniversary of it all, of that event, is of most significance on the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere and the summer solstice in the southern hemisphere. Very significant day. And what do you guys think?
I'll go for that, 8 being my lucky number.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. And it's also a special day for you too, Callista, on that day, isn't it?
Yeah, it's my anniversary, so it's pretty special for me.
I hear you turned 39.
Yeah, I wish.
Personal anniversary, you mean?
Yeah. There seems to be a big sort of lineup of various planets and different energies and things like that going on, which I don't fully understand because I'm not really very au fait with it all. But I've been aware of, and this has been for years and decades actually, that we're living in a time when all these different cycles are coming to an end, and some cycles are very short and some cycles are long, and with the ending of all these cycles, it's like we're coming out of this Kali Yuga thing and going into something else, which is a lot more, a lot less challenging. Let's hope. So, I think we're gradually moving into something. Nothing happens really, sort of overnight. So it's a gradual process, and I don't think that we'll see the results of this fully for probably a couple of 100 years. I don't know. But I, as I was saying to somebody earlier on today, I am so glad that at my age I can still be alive and witness what is going on the planet right now, because it truly is historical. It's it's biblical. So yeah, all these things are sort of coming to an end, all these cycles, and also all our own personal cycles are coming to an end. I believe that all the karma over all the lifetimes is all just simmering there so that we can just look at it, deal with it, and be able to let it go with love, so that we can move into the next cycle without any baggage. And that's sort of what I'm concentrating on at the moment for me personally.
For those so inclined, because I would have to say the majority have no idea about karma. It's something they might have heard in some movie or something, but they don't understand its personal effect. But that is exactly correct. This is a time for the resolution of the old energies that may have been involved in other lifetimes. I certainly know in the work I do with that, around doing past life regression and trinary regression therapy. It seems to me that this is the most opportune of times, if you're so inclined, to pull it out and say, let's look at it. As you just said, Callista, look at it and release it with kind of a minimum of effort, if that is your intent. And maybe that's the whole point. Maybe there is a group of us that have reached a point where we can do that and then help others do it when their whole worlds collapse around them. Because I think a lot of people will be in great pain when everything collapses on them. And you mentioned the ending of cycles. The patriarchal cycle is supposed to also be one that's coming to an end, and the matriarchal is coming back. But I do not think it's just going to be the pendulum action of the matriarchal taking over from the patriarchal. I think what we're looking at now is actually the matriarchal and the patriarchal in balanced harmony with each other. No longer one dominant and the other submissive to the dominance of the other gender or whatever. So perhaps maybe what we are seeing, and this is a good time to see it, when everything seems to be collapsing, when the world is held captive, large portions of the world are literally under house arrest. And it's so here in Alberta, not quite total lockout, but everything's very restricted again. And there's still talk that come Christmas, they might put it under total lockdown. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Well, maybe the people who control Alberta need to read the Nuremberg protocol or whatever they call it.
Well, actually,
yeah,
sorry, Callista, I was just going to say the actual premier here in the province of Alberta actually is against masks, and he doesn't like forcing it on people. And he's even said, no, he's not going to force it on the farmers and the people in rural areas. He said the cities are a bit different because there's, coming together of more people in closed spaces, but he's actually been pretty good that way. And even though we're under restrictions, he could have gone full lockdown, and he won't do that. So he's I think he's kind of getting pressured to do what he's told by who. So,
well, I don't know. The more I look, I was going to say, the more I look at what's going on this planet, the more I realize how any extraterrestrial race who's looking at what's going on here would just say, forget it, just get out of here. Why would you ever want to come here? It's just stupid. It's the most stupid, ridiculous things that are happening. And the crazy just gets crazier. And I don't know what's going to happen over the next 2 or 3 weeks or over the next 2 or 3 months. But my golly, I don't think I'm surprised by anything anymore.
Maybe those same ETs will show up and say, what the hell are you people doing? Can't you see it? It's right in front of your faces. What's being done to you? Are you so blind that you cannot see? Or is it just total ignorance, maybe arrogance, that you don't want to look at the truth? But it's time now, folks. It's time to look at the truth. And the truth will set you free. And it starts within ourselves. So when we look at our inner truth of how do we live our lives, how do we handle our friends, our loved ones, our enemies, all of this is all part of this overthrow of what has been for so long the normal way of living. Maybe I'm being a bit idealistic here, but we've got to get past what we've been doing for thousands of years now. Otherwise, what is that future? And maybe we will get some intervention from the ETs happening even in the next couple of weeks. That would blow people's minds, wouldn't it?
Why do we need that? They can't fix us. We've got to fix ourselves.
No, I'm not saying they have to fix us. I've always stated that we have to fix ourselves. But the corruption has gone to a point that this is affecting them. It's affecting dimensional levels of things, you know?
Oh, yeah, it is,
And
yeah. And I just want to say something too about karma. Karma is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, you
no,
could come back into a lifetime like now and receive positive payback from whatever's happened to you, you know? So it
no,
doesn't
yeah,
have to be a bad
absolutely.
thing. I just wanted to make that point because, you know,
No,
people
that's a
tend
good
to think
point.
of karma as being bad, but it's not. It can be it can be just the opposite. So
Yeah,
it's just a matter of looking at it and deciding. Sometimes it's a question of deciding whether the glass is half full or the glass is half empty. You know, it's that sort of a thing. But anyway, I digress.
yeah, and you know that my own personal view of karma is it's a great teacher when you're aware of what that's all about from, quote, other lifetimes. And as you just said, it can be a very positive thing. Or it can be an opportunity for great soul growth because you're identifying those factors that by dealing with it, releasing it, working it, that it opens everything up for the soul, for us as humans. And I do think, and this is very important, that each and every one of us has chosen to be here in these historic times, to be involved with it to whatever degree. So we're having these discussions, but at the same time, you know, this is that time when humanity is having a great discussion.
And
maybe it's all about it, what it's all about in the end. Yes, Phil.
I just wanted to add to what Callista said about, you know, if I was a spacefaring evolved ET and I looked down on planet Earth, I might just skedaddle to the next galaxy. But you know, if you consider that there are many supposed off-planet races that have had members choose to leave temporarily those races and incarnate as humans, it would explain why they, on some level, are here and why they do care about what's going on the planet. Because if everyone is to be believed that sense and feels that they are from somewhere else, another star system, for example, another race, then there's many different races that have members that have come here for some big reason. And it would explain that their intervention, as the word was mentioned earlier, might be through their citizens who came here to incarnate as human and then be subject to the laws of duality, polarity, and all the craziness that is planet Earth, while their brethren off planet watch and see what happens. And it also goes to something that Alex Collier once said several years ago, is for humanity not to be rescued and to have problem solvers come by some ET race, but rather to be open to what he called mentorship. The idea that you can listen or you cannot. You know, we're consultants. You can follow the consultant or not. But if someone who had been through certain kinds of challenges that humanity is about to face had done so already, could humanity at least be open enough to consider what they're saying before they openly accept it or dismiss it, by starting to engage not just their heart, but also their critical reasoning skills? And I would agree that the planet's not quite there yet because we're still too divided and conquered. But I think if Trump goes through with all of the plans that Q has mentioned are on his agenda, the world eventually would unite sooner than later and might be open to the possibility of receiving some sort of guidance or mentorship from races that would seek to help us get out of the mire and the muck that we're in. I think they understand that we have been manipulated, and there's a lot of people with potential that just don't know they have it yet because they've been dumbed down for arguably several thousand years, but certainly in the US over the last 100 years at least.
Yeah,
all I wanted to say.
totally agree with you. No, said it well. Because I don't see it as a rescue. No. We have to rescue ourselves, but mentoring, guidance, yeah, maybe that's really what can be offered. Why did Donald Trump create the sixth force, the sixth military force, the base force? I mean, what the hell is that all about? He's preparing us for something.
Yes.
And that's why I think they have plans, they being the Trump crew, and I'm talking about the Q and the intelligence service and all of them. They have plans already to where this planet is going, where humanity is going. And I think that's the thing that's the hardest right now with all of this bullshit that's going down, that is all about keeping everything closed down and locked up and nobody seeing the truth because they got to get back in power. These people have lost their power. They're going down. They're going down because that's what the divine wants. That's what we're here to be part of. I believe that. I'm here to be part of this historic time, to contribute where I can, to inform, educate, help heal those who have been so traumatized by being bloody human beings, when it should be the most glorious thing.
I don't agree that it's the divine wants these people to go down at all. I think the divine wants us all to have a proper human experience and learn from it. I think that's what it's all about. And a lot of us, like Phyllis said, come from other. Pardon?
That's kind of what I'm saying. It wants us to have amazing lives. Really?
Yeah, because I the only explanation for me is, as far as I'm concerned, is that I came from somewhere else, in the future somewhere. Because a lot of what's going on this planet is like ho-hum. This is so boring. The technology is so primitive, and I just don't understand the mindset of most people. But that's just me. I'm really glad I came here because I really like chocolate and I like wafer biscuits, and that's what I've just pulled out of the pantry.
Where are you from? Because I like chocolate too.
Oh, there must be a chocolate galaxy somewhere, Phil.
I think so. A chocolate planet.
We'll return to it eventually after all this has happened. All it's finished, when we've had enough. We'll go and just completely indulge ourselves with chocolate biscuits and chocolate and chocolate.
But where do you feel you're from? I'm just curious.
Oh, I don't know where I'm from. I mean, the question is, where are we from, or where am I from? The last sort of lifetimes, where am I from? Where am I from before my human lifetimes, or where am I from before that?
Well, no. Let me clarify. A lot of people who feel that they're off planet or star seeds or whatever, they tend to have an affinity very strongly with one galactic race over another, even though in history, yes, we've probably lived in all of those populations, and we've been even back even further than that. We're source, of course. But I didn't know if you felt a strong affinity with one particular galaxy or race of being. I was just curious.
Well, as a human, I feel I've come from the Lyra constellation, which is where most humans come from anyway, I think. But then I've also gone into other aspects of incarnation, and I believe I was probably, sort of cruising around the Cassiopeian, the area of Cassiopeia as well. But I think that we're capable of taking on as creations of the Creator. We take on not only human creations, but we can take on insectoid or a whole lot of other different types of incarnations to have those experiences. A lot of us have been reptilians. A lot of us have been
Mantis,
all
mounted.
all different types of incarnations for the experience, and therefore that sort of puts me in a position where I think, well, you have to be really, really careful about how you're actually looking at these different ones and making judgments. It's very, very easy to get into the judgmental thing, but you need to really pull back from that and look at it and think, well, okay, this is creation, all of it.
I think humanity has a ways to go to really entertain some of that speculation and thought. It doesn't mean it's not worth thinking and discussing. I think it's got to be discussed eventually. But right now, of course, I think our primary focus, and I do agree, I think it was you, Bill, who said something about, we've come down here as volunteers, or Callista, you were talking about how we therefore have a right to be involved because we're humans, and we may be from other extraterrestrial people and peoples and races and all that, but right now we're humans. We're involved in what's happening on planet Earth, and we have the right to intervene would be one word, but just participate. We have the right to participate in what's unfolding right now. The Prime Directive
like we
said
have
no interference.
It's like
Sorry,
we have the right.
Yeah.
It's like we have the right to vote because we're citizens of this planet. And this is why it's important on so many different levels that Donald Trump has come in to make sure that something as simple as a voting, as an election, is done properly. Because if you've got corruption at that level, you've got corruption right through all levels. And it doesn't matter whether you're a human or whatever. If you come here as a human on this planet and your vote is not recognized, then it means that there's just no reason for anything. We've come here, yes, we've come from other races, other planets, other galaxies and systems and quadrants, whatever you want to call them. And we've come in as humans so that we can be on this planet and have a say in what is happening, because as a human, you have the right to have a say. You have the right to have an intention about how you want this race to go. Because at this stage, if something isn't done, and something is being done, but if something wasn't done, we could probably see the extinction of the human race on this planet within the next 200 years. And so this is why this is so critical right now.
I agree. It's heavy duty time.
Well, I have a comment. I have a related comment. The view from here is that the period we're in now is more than just an election, regardless of the importance of that election. It's a critical turning point in that in the Earth human race, and an important benchmark in the shift of consciousness. It may just be that winter solstice, December 21st, will mark the change from the uphill climb to the downhill advance. That won't be overnight, but it'll be a change of direction.
Well, is this what people are calling the event?
I don't know what the event is.
Me neither. Okay. It's all the event.
That's what I said, but they've been talking about the event and capitalizing it for a few years now, and I haven't clicked on any of those articles because I didn't feel drawn to it, but it seems somewhat centered around what we're talking about, this December 21st date. I just didn't know if you guys had more information on what the heck is the event.
No, I think that's similar to what was happening pre-2012, December 21st, in the years before that, and people are saying, there's going to be a mass ascension and the rapture and this or that, and it didn't quite go according to plan, and so many got so pissed off and upset. So I can't tie my energies to the event because it's asking me to believe there's only one event, and it's a progression of events. It's your own personal event horizon, Yeah. What are you doing in your life? How are you getting that sorted out?
Yeah, you're the event. You're the event. Be your own event.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are the event. But there is an event that really is happening, and I know that it is, and that is that Bitcoin is going through the roof. That is the event. That's the event that everyone's been waiting for. Trust me, because I said it.
Well, that's something to listen to for those who might be interested, although...
No, it's a joke, Will. It's a joke.
Oh.
Well, I think it's interesting because whether there's a big event or not, a lot of people, I think, failed to see, and I know and I remember Awareness talking about December 21st, 2012 as an event that was critical and was very important, even if people couldn't perceive it through their five senses. And I think if there's any credence to this alignment coming up on December 21st, 8 years later, it might be similar in that you're going to have a lot of people with hyped up expectations, again disappointed because they failed to see the greater significance and opportunity of what was astrologically being symbolized as a further opportunity to go deeper into our own process, both individually and as a humanity. And so it might be to, I don't sort of resolve themselves, because it's right before the new year, to have some new resolutions in regards to that if they're on a conscious path and so inclined, as you put it, Will, to try and be the best of themselves and try and maybe live a more heart-centered life and put themselves more in alignment with the energies that planet now that are only going to cooperate with those that are more in tune with themselves and the environment around them in as much of a heart-centered way as possible. And I just think there might be a danger in having expectations again for some huge event looking like a certain something, and when it doesn't happen, they dismiss the entire thing as being false, when in fact something on a subtle level may be entirely very powerful if we would just open to perceive it.
Yeah, isn't it interesting that whenever we rely on something out or someone outside of ourselves to make our lives better or more interesting or whatever, you get let down because you're relying on something outside of yourself. And I think this is what's happening now with people looking at the event or this or that or something. And as you said, Will, we are the event. And so if you create your own life that is satisfying and wholesome and honest and truthful and fulfills the sort of things, the experiences that you want to have as a human, then go for it yourself. If someone else is around that's inclined to step in with you and want to do the same thing for a while, fine, do it. But don't allow yourself to get, dragged into someone else's idea of what things should be or whatever. Maintain those boundaries and don't look outside yourself. If there's anything I've learned on this planet in this lifetime, it's that in spades.
And if you look outside of yourself, can you do it from that space of neutrality? And as Awareness calls it, sacred neutrality. So that you're not drawn into it, so you can judge it for what it is. Like with everything that's taking place right now, I mean, it's so easy to get drawn into this, drawn into that. As we said earlier, Lynn Wood said something, and now other the commentators and Republicans are outraged because he's going against. Don't get drawn into it. It's like he said it. So what? Just get on with it. Stay neutral to it, and it'll all work out. It will all work out. Everything's going to be fine in the end. And maybe that's what Trump knows already in advance, because he's playing the game, and he's playing it brilliantly.
Well, he's come from the future. He's come from the future. He knows what's going on.
Right.
He knows why he's
Hardly
here.
had- I think so, and I think in a strange way we all come from the future in the sense that, we know that time as we understand it, linear time, is very much a human construct for this third dimensional reality. It's not how it's experienced outside of this context. And for most simultaneous time, being in the moment is how it is. Now, that's a hard one to get your head around. But when you do, it's like, so if you're in a simultaneous time, you could also say that's like you are from the future. Come back to these times by choice. Again, we come back to that, so that we can be part of the events unfolding right now, the events of our lives right now, in this moment. That's where the power is, right now, in this moment. As you make your choices, make them relevant to the here and now, this moment. Everything can change in the blink of an eye, in the moment. Okay, what else do we have to talk about, or have we come to a grinding halt? Any last thoughts about anything?
I think that pretty well wrapped it up.
How about you guys, Callista, Joe?
Yeah, I'm happy to finish now if you guys are.
Unless you got anything else you want to bring up before we end for tonight.
No.
Okay.
No, I liked how
Tonight for us.
we kind of framed everything in a more spiritual context, so that people can maybe feel relieved that the craziness that appears to be going on externally is all part of the Great Awakening, individually and as a whole. And people, I think, going forward, as they get their Great Awakening in the months and maybe years that follow, they're going to begin to look at all of the earthly events in a more holistic and spiritual context, and realize it's all part of a grand evolution that we're destined to go on. And I liked how we wrapped that all together tonight.
Yeah, me
It came
too.
together
Yeah.
nicely. Yeah, it came together nicely. So, well, we've got some more of the madness ahead of us next week. I'm sure we're going to see some wonderful events. And remember what Q has said right from the beginning almost. Just sit back and enjoy the popcorn and enjoy this show. Enjoy the event. And it's like, oh, look what those fools are doing now. I can't believe what's just happened. Oh, my God. Or maybe have a beer or a glass of wine with that, or soda pop, whatever. What a movie. Yeah. What an event. Excellent.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it with that. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Callista. It's been a good chat, as it usually is, and we'll definitely do it again next week. Any last thoughts from the three of you as we tie it together for tonight and today?
Yeah, I would say that keep in mind that after the chat tonight, we've got 2 more chats, the first week and the second week after today. And then the third chat will be following winter solstice. But we don't have that long to wait.
No, we don't. After waiting a lifetime, we don't have that long to wait. In the constant unfolding. Thanks, Bill.
Well, I just like
Merry
to say,
Christmas.
I just like to. Oh,
wait a minute. Who's going to go first?
No, Phil, you go first.
I just said Merry Christmas. If we have 2 more chats until we're in between solstice and Christmas, I think we're going to have at least in the U.S., a very merry surprise. And I just sort of blurted it out, Merry Christmas. But go ahead, Callista.
Oh, I just want to thank everybody who's listening to this call, and thank you for your support and everything, and just hope that we've been able to enlighten you or amuse you or irritate you or something, have some sort of effect on you. And yeah, we look forward to being with you again next week. So I say adios.
Adios. Auf Wiedersehen. And
Okay.
goodbye. And guys, everyone have a safe and wonderful week, and enjoy the events. Whatever.
Okay, you guys.
Okay, guys.
It was fun. We'll talk to you. See you soon.
Namaste
Bye for
to
now.
all.
Talk to you next time.